Building a domain rating meaningfully over 3 to 6 months requires specific effort. You aim for high-quality editorial placements on respected industry sites to increase authority. The math is clear. Securing well-placed editorial backlinks on authoritative publications remains one of the only proven ways to drive that domain growth. But the actual mechanics of getting those links live usually look like an organized mess. Teams try to manage hundreds of prospects in a spreadsheet, draft isolated outreach emails, lose track of what's published or what went quiet. This dual-line graph illustrates the disconnect. Up top, you have the sharp upward trajectory of a campaign's backlink ambitions. Down below is the flat, erratic line of actual link outcomes. The space between them is the infrastructure gap, fueled by the 40. Research across mid-sized agencies shows teams managing 40 campaigns manually spend nearly half their time on pure overhead, chasing follow-up emails, reconfirming live URLs, and reconciling trackers. None of that time creates backlinks. The dilemma for marketers today is figuring out how to bypass this friction. You need to close the infrastructure gap without wiping out your agency margins or draining client budgets. Historically, the SEO industry has tried 3 ways to solve this. You grind it out in manual spreadsheets, you pay a middleman agency to handle the outreach, or you migrate your operation to a dedicated software platform. SEO success in 2026 relies on the operational infrastructure you use to execute link building without wasting internal resources. Let's look at how guest posting operated around 2022. You compiled target lists from free directories, dumped into a spreadsheet, and ran outreach through standard email tools. The draw here is obvious. It carries a $0 software cost, and digging through open access lists helps newer teams understand different editorial landscapes and barriers to entry. The friction hits almost immediately. Someone drafts custom pitches, waits for responses that rarely arrive, and then relies entirely on their own memory to figure out who to follow up with when the pipeline runs dry. Generic CRMs attempt to organize this, but they lack editorial tracking. They aren't built for content assignment or revision cycles, so drafts get lost and communication threads simply die out. The real toll of this method reveals itself during routine audits. That is usually when you discover a placed link died 3 months ago, or a target domain's authority dropped right after publication. This animated quadrant chart maps out SEO methodologies. Free directories and generic CRMs sit solidly in the zone for low financial cost, but they also max out the access for extreme administrative time drain. Attempting to add more campaigns here only adds administrative chaos. Relying on free setups simply shifts monetary cost into a massive, unrecorded tax on your team's time, limiting your ability to scale. To escape the spreadsheet grind, the industry's next move was outsourcing. You pay an agency or a middleman to handle the outreach. In this model, you hand over the entire supply chain. A third party sources the sites, drafts the pitches, and manages the publishing. Internally, your marketing team immediately regains their bandwidth. The day-to-day administrative burden of checking trackers and sending follow-ups is completely removed from your plate.
But you trade that bandwidth for opacity. You have almost no visibility into where placements are happening, how they are secured, or what editorial quality checks are applied to the sites. This diagram shows the model's reality. Funds move to the agency, but a massive portion is consumed by the margin tax. Only a fraction reaches the publisher. Furthermore, the client retains no relationship with publishers. Network value stays with the middleman. Outsourcing to middlemen removes the headache of coordination, but it replaces it with blind margins and guarantees that you build no long-term structural assets of your own. Which brings us to the structural correction taking hold in 2026, purpose-built GuestPost outreach platforms. These systems consolidate the entire workflow: publisher discovery, editorial communication, content delivery, and performance analytics all happen inside a single authenticated interface. This matrix compares spreadsheets, agencies, and platforms. For platforms, transparency starts with publisher verification. Sites are pre-vetted for authority and traffic before you see them. Because data is natively integrated, the platform generates live tracking, timestamp snapshots, and higher scalability. The elimination of overhead creates a clear mathematical advantage. A team that used to manage 40 manual campaigns can coordinate 3 to 4 times that volume without adding a single new hire. Adopting this system requires a deliberate shift in how your team works, along with an upfront financial investment in the software itself. Once an article is published, the platform continues to monitor the live links. It tracks indexing and detects domain degradation in real time, allowing you to respond instantly if a placement drops in value. A dedicated platform provides the reporting infrastructure needed to enforce accountability in link-building operations. Buying advanced SEO tools before having the volume to justify them is a mistake, but waiting too long to upgrade operations will drain your margins. If you are a budget-conscious beginner or an in-house SEO managing a handful of occasional campaigns, your needs are straightforward. Utilize free publisher directories and basic spreadsheets. Use them strictly for landscape mapping, understanding editorial standards, and initial niche research. If you are a mid-sized agency currently manually coordinating 40 or more active guest posting campaigns, your priorities shift entirely. Adopt a dedicated guest post platform immediately. You need to eliminate the administrative tipping point where coordination tasks start eating into strategic work. This decision tree flowchart breaks it down. Consolidating tools multiplies client output without wiping out profit margins on coordination staff. If your primary constraint is tracking what you actually received, your path routes directly to platform-level accountability. Finally, if you are a CMO or marketing director overseeing these budgets, you are the one managing upward. Demand platform-level reporting from your teams and agency partners. Do not accept opaque metrics that require you to simply trust the process. Require exact data, time-stamped placements, live monitored domain authority snapshots, and ongoing proof of URL indexing. Choosing the right infrastructure ensures every placement is verified, protected, and delivers measurable value to your domain.